Hello everyone and welcome back to another Star Wars figure review. Today we're taking a look at a figure from the vintage collection, and it is of course the Mandalorian. This is a great figure and one that I'm very excited to share with you guys. It is for all intents and purposes the same figure that was released as part of the Walmart exclusive Din Djarin and the Child build-up pack, and you can check out my review here on the channel of that one if you haven't done so already. There are obviously some notable differences and similarities between those two figures, and we're going to touch base on all of those throughout this review. Obviously the biggest difference with this one is that he doesn't come with the abundance of accessories that came with the build-up pack, obviously in the form of the Child himself, the Camtono full of Beskar, and the alternate head for Din Djarin himself. That is not to say though that this is not a great figure. In some aspects this one shines better and brighter than the build-up pack, and again we'll touch base on that throughout this review. I still recommend this figure though, it's definitely a worthy addition to the collection, and if you want to add it to your own then you can do so via the link in the video description. That will take you to staractionfigures.co.uk, and at the time of filming this review he is in stock now and available to buy. Now, one other thing to point out about this one before we kick things off is the fact that this is the same figure that we'll see a release as part of the HasLab Razor Crest vehicle as well. And there will be some differences between those two figures too, which we'll again touch base on throughout the review. So let's kick things off, let's jump right into it and take a look at the packaging that this figure comes in. So as you can see, we do get a really nice vintage card back for this figure. In my personal opinion, this is the best card that we've seen for the character of the Mandalorian in the vintage collection so far. What I love about this one is the fact that the image on the card is not a Photoshop mock-up, it's not a press image, it's a still image taken straight from the series, and it's got a really cool gritty tone to it, and it just looks fantastic. Really does set this one off in my opinion. As you can see at the top, we've got the Mandalorian logo, we have the name pill just below that, and then at the bottom we have the Kenner logo. Now on the back, you'll see some other figures available as part of the vintage collection, and this figure comes as part of the same wave as Darth Vader from Rogue One, Captain Rex from the Clone Wars, and the Armourer and Moff Gideon. And we'll be taking a look at these two figures in my next couple of videos, so make sure you stay tuned for those. So really cool packaging. Once again, a gorgeous vintage card, but the figure inside is even cooler. So let's take a look at the figure itself. So here we have the Mandalorian once again depicted in his shiny Beskar armour, and this is, again, without question, a really nice figure. As I said at the beginning of the review, this one, in my opinion, shines a little bit brighter in certain aspects, particularly when it comes to showcasing the sculpt of the figure itself. Now, obviously the figure that was included as part of the build-up pack was incredibly heavily weathered, and in some ways that took a lot of the detail away from the sculpt itself. The detail in that figure was still absolutely phenomenal in terms of the weathering and the paint applications, but this one really showcases what a fantastic sculpt this vintage collection 3 3/4 inch Din Djarin figure really is. As you can see, the sculpt itself is really nice and crisp. You have some really nice defined detail on the gauntlets there. We've got the Whistling Birds launcher. The angles and edges on the Beskar armour itself are really nice and sharp. And just the overall sculpt is a really well done one, and I've really got to commend Hasbro on their efforts with this figure. They've done a fantastic job. Now, obviously, we see the Mandalorian in his Beskar armour for the majority of the Mandalorian Seasons 1 and 2. The build-up pack figure is very scene-specific in the sense that we only see Mando seriously heavily weathered and battle-damaged in a couple of instances within the series, whereas this one really does capture his overall look and essence throughout the majority of the show. Now, what I really like about this one as well is that in some aspects it also trumps the Black Series 6-inch version of the Mandalorian, and again a lot of that boils down to the sculpt of the figure. Now, as you can see, the helmet itself looks absolutely phenomenal, and personally I feel this looks more accurate to the helmet worn by Din Djarin in the series. There was something a little bit off about the Black Series 6-inch version. It's still a good sculpt, but it's missing that shelf presence. It doesn't quite look the way it should, and I think this one feels a lot pointier towards the chin. The visor is really nicely crisp and painted. Looks phenomenal. And again, just the overall sculpt and the finish on the armour itself as well, in my opinion, is better than the Black Series release. Now, one of the main issues I had with the Black Series 6-inch version of this figure is the fact that the armour was a little bit too dull and matte in tone, and with this figure it's a really nice vibrant silver and it looks really, really good. The same can be said for the jetpack that's included with this one. It has a nice metallic finish to it, not the dull colour of the Black Series version. So in terms of overall aesthetic, this is definitely the better figure of the Mandalorian when it comes to comparing the Vintage Collection and the Black Series side by side. Now, one other area that this figure absolutely shines as opposed to the Black Series version is the fact that you can display him with the cape and the jetpack on at the same time. This is an issue that absolutely plagued the Black Series version for me. It was just something that shouldn't have slipped through quality control. Hasbro should have sculpted a brand new cape for the Beskar Mando in the Black Series, and as I said in that review, you just can't do it. I had to resort to a third party to source a soft goods cape for my 6-inch Black Series Mando, and obviously that's something we should never have to do. But this one doesn't suffer that same issue. The cape has been sculpted in such a way that it is positioned off to the side, and that allows you to plug the jetpack into his back while the cape is being worn as well. And that's something that I absolutely love about this figure, and the build-up version as well. But it just looks absolutely stunning. Really, really nice figure. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of the review, this is also the same figure that we're going to see released as part of the HasLab Razor Crest vehicle. Now, obviously there are going to be some differences, I would imagine, in terms of paint applications between those two figures, but the one that's coming with the Razor Crest will include a soft goods cape, and that's obviously been included so that he can sit down in the cockpit of the Razor Crest itself. So it'll be interesting to draw some comparisons between those two figures when the Razor Crest gets released later on this year. Now, as I said, absolutely stunning figure. He comes with some great accessories, despite not coming with the same amount that came with the build-up pack. We do have the aforementioned jetpack, which can be removed. It plugs nicely into the back via a peg, and there's the slot on the back, as you can see. We also have a peg hole for the blaster rifle on this figure, and this is another area where the figure really does shine, in the sense that the blaster rifle itself can be plugged into the back, and it stays in place a lot better than the Black Series 6-inch version, as you can see. If we do that, it slots into place really nicely. The cape covers the slot where the jetpack would be, and it looks really, really good. Now, it does come with his pulse rifle, of course, heavily inspired by the blaster used by Boba Fett in the Holiday Special. Really nicely sculpted, nicely painted, and again fits nice and snug into the back. Now, the cape is removable as well, of course. You just pop off the head if you want to remove that, and he also comes with his sidearm, which plugs nicely into the holster on his leg. As you can see, he also features the Mudhorn signet on his shoulder pad. That's really nicely sculpted. And in terms of articulation, this guy is packed to the brim. He features a ball joint at the head. We have hinges at the shoulders and at the elbows. We have hinges at the wrists, a nice fluid ball joint at the torso, and there's a nice bit of give there due to the soft plastic that's been used for the bandolier. Really, really do like that. There's no risk of that getting damaged or broken. We also have hinges at the hips and swivel cuts at the upper thigh. We have a hinge at the knee and a hinge at the ankle as well. So great articulation on this figure. Again, a really, really nice sculpt. And as I said, we are going to compare this figure with his build-up pack counterpart in this review as well. I'll just give you one more look at the sculpt of the figure before we do that. Once again, a really nicely put together figure by Hasbro. So here is our shiny Beskar Mando alongside his Din Djarin from the build-up pack counterpart. As you can see, the sculpts are exactly the same. It is purely the paint applications that differ between these two figures, and obviously the inclusion of accessories within the build-up pack. Now, as I said, these two figures are both fantastic in their own right, but this figure from the build-up set is definitely more scene specific in the sense that we only see Mando beaten up and battle damaged at certain points in the show, whereas Mando really does rock this look a lot more frequently throughout the series. That's not to say that this figure is not very good. The weathering and the detail on this particular figure are absolutely phenomenal. Some of the best paint applications and some of the best weathering I've seen on a 3 3/4 inch Star Wars action figure for quite some time. But again, because he is so heavily weathered and battle damaged, it takes a little bit away from the overall sculpt of the figure, whereas this clean and shiny look really helps the sculpt stand out. But again, they are both really, really cool figures. Now, this one has been a little bit trickier to track down, especially for my friends over in the US. I know that they've had a very difficult time getting a hold of this one from Walmart, but if you can track one of these figures down, I would highly, highly recommend it. But the same can be said for this one as well. Again, it's a great look for the character. It's probably, in my opinion, the best 3 3/4 inch Mandalorian figure that we've seen so far. And again, in certain areas, it is even better than the Black Series 6-inch release as well. So it's definitely a figure I would recommend picking up. Once again, there's a link down below in the video description if you want to add this one to your own collection. And I really hope that you've enjoyed taking a look at this figure. And I'll be back with some more reviews very, very soon. So until then, as always, thank you for watching, keep collecting, and may the Force be with you.